Yeah! Hey Aiden, that's right in my fucking ear. Aiden, and this is the VG Punk channel. It's not a secret that I play many other card games besides Vanguard. Even on this channel, I cover Shadowverse sometimes. Having played other card games, I have watched, fought, and pilot a wide variety of decks, but out of the three overarching archetypes of decks, I like Control the most. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. Get back up here. Stop typing in the comment. Excuse me. However, I find Vanguard have no true control deck, maybe one or two at most. I came to this recent conclusion after remembering a buddy of mine saying this years ago. Now, I'm a visual learner, so let's give y'all a visual of my thought process. We'll use a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is the weakest play of the deck, and 5 is the play that should win you the game. On a timeline of a card game, a tempo deck should go from 1 to 2 to 3, 4, and 5. On the other hand, an aggro will start the game fast, like with a 3. Not the game-winning play, but it is faster than the other two archetypes of deck. However, as the game progresses, it should go down from like 3, 3, 3 to 2 to 1. Lastly, control deck is a special one because their trajectory is 1, 1, 1, 1, and then 5. It comes with a little asterisk that say they can interact with the other deck, play pattern, play style, whatever you want to call it, in order to control the opponent. Many would agree with me that these three pattern is the bare bone of their respective archetype. Sure, the number can be slightly different from decks to decks, but their overarching pattern is still the same. We have many decks that follow the pattern of tempo and some that follow the pattern of aggro, but we still don't have nearly as much decks that follow the control archetype pattern, especially in standard. Now, some folk are screaming at me with decks named like Gandiva and Eugene. Well, one of those is a tempo deck, the other is a shitty deck. They might have some control aspect to their strategy, but overall, they're tempo deck. Let's use my template for Gandiva. From grade 0 to grade 3, that's your early game. The number tend to be 1, 2, or maybe 3 if you get a good hand. When you ride Gandiva, it's probably gonna be 3 to 4 on average. By late game, where you've bound enough cards and retire your opponent rear guards enough time, it'll be a 5, and you should finish the game by then. That's the typical trajectory for a Gandiva game plan, excluding outliers like Overtrigger. In comparison, a deck like Rotorua follows the aggro archetype. Right from the moment they can attack, there will be 3 attacks ready to go with plant token or actual rear guards that made the plant token. In the moment, it might feel like it's a 5 because you didn't get a chance to get resource or set up correctly, but in the grand scheme of things, it's actually more of a 3. It's just 3 averagely powered attack, but they can consistently do it from the early stages of the game. So the pattern is more like 3, 3, and with recent support, 4, 4. For Rotorua. It doesn't perfectly fit into the aggro archetype, but that's due to the design philosophy of the card development team, which I will go into detail in a bit, but it does contribute to why we don't have a true control deck. With an example given to the 2 other archetype, what deck in standard or even in V or Premium that followed the control archetype pattern? Ghidorah. As a person who loved playing Ghidorah, I would have to say maybe. Surprisingly, Premium Mega Colony and Eugene from Standard are 2 decks that is the closest to the control archetype pattern. Both need the same thing in order to fulfill that pattern, and that is a finisher. I don't know why, but that's the thing that Vanguard absolutely cannot do. Create a finisher for a control deck. They just can't do it. The closest they have gotten to something like that is early V Premium with Protect decks. Now, the standard kid won't understand what I'm talking about, but Protect decks tend to be decks with finisher. They do what the deck wants and play defensively until a certain point when a card or a combo just flat out win the game. We don't have that anymore because of 2 things. The card development team sucks at designing non-tempo deck. outside of a few aggro decks, everything else is tempo. Even some of the aggro deck become tempo decks after a few supports. And second, the vocal part of the community is a little bitch. They whine and complain when there are decks with interaction and the opponent interrupting them, touching themselves on the other side of the table. I got flashback to an old video of mine. You should check it out. It's about me talking about how to beat Mega Colony. Because the card development team wants every single deck to be playable in every single scenario, we can't have funny decks that can consistently do 6 damage in one shot, or decks that take away soul, take away energy, or even better, have an alternative win con. Now hold up, I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh my god, a deck that does 6 damage? That's crazy. But I'm talking about it does no damage at all until that 6 damage. Until it find a way to win the game in one shot. It just played defensively until they get to that point. Now y'all can't fathom that because we are so focused on tempo deck and making tempo deck faster, where it's as fast as an aggro deck but it's just the same trajectory of a tempo deck. We might have new gimmick every set, but nothing has changed. From point A to point B, it's still 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 most of the time. All the older aggro decks got turned into tempo decks as well. And of course, no true control deck can be seen in the near future. Now, I have to put a pause at this section and say, I know Prison exists in standard format. That's probably what y'all has been typing already. And it will exist very prominently when set 3 of Divine Z come out. But similar to Gendiva, the revised Prison deck with DZ set 3 support turn into a tempo deck. It'll go back to focusing on dealing 6 damage to the opponent over time instead of more interesting thing that it used to do, like the possibility of decking the opponent out if the opponent is not careful. Many people, like myself, think that V Premium is a mistake. However, I want the card design to revisit the idea that they had when they created V Premium. The idea of a rock, paper, scissors format. Back when they theorized that Protect should beat Force, Force should beat Excel, and Excel should beat Protect. But of course, bringing back that concept is a scary thing. So we have to modernize it. Control should have an advantage over Tempo. Tempo should have an advantage over Aggro. And Aggro should have an advantage over Control. Vanguard have a great example to follow in their sister card game, Shadowverse Evolve. All of my Vanguard friends right now are rolling their eyes because they're hearing me talking about Shadowverse Evolve again. But Shadowverse Evolve has some of the purest example of the 3 archetype pattern. Players start the game with 20 life, by the way. For a tempo deck, look at Forest Craft. It does 2 damage here, 3 damage here, while gaining you resource until it's ready to do 4 damage here, 5 damage, and then it moves to 6 damage, 10 damage to win the game. Abyss is literally aggro. They have a deck specifically called Aggro Abyss, barely giving you resource, but you put down bodies with averagely good stat to start attacking right away. And then Havencraft embody control. Because it barely attack in the early to mid game, it focused more on field wiping, taking away the opponent resource, and then late game it slammed down a 10 power body that cannot be removed or have a hard time to remove. Vanguard will be such an amazing game if the decks aren't so tempo focused. It's fine if an aggro deck run out of steam in the late game. It's fine if a control deck get aggroed early game. Other card games take the 3 archetype patterns and put their own twist into it. Vanguard isn't special because it doesn't follow that rule. It continuously hurts itself because it doesn't follow that rule. Every deck in Vanguard followed the pattern of 1 to 2 to 3, 4, 5. A meta deck follow 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 5 to 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. This video is to show that Vanguard design, it's stagnant. No matter how excited Different Fight or Outer Orange or any other content creator is over a new mechanic, it's still a tempo deck. Aggro can be built with some deck, although most of them are shitty as fuck, and there is barely control deck in sight because I can't do what I want, so control is bad. No matter what I say about Vanguard, I fucking love this game, or else I wouldn't have played it since it exists. I want the game to be better, and for that to happen, the card design need to be different. It need to follow other different pattern than the tempo archetype pattern. Like the video if you agree with me or find this video interesting. Subscribe for more video about Vanguard and Shadowverse Evolve. And comment if you have anything to say. Remember to take care of yourself, and I'll be seeing you real soon, my love.